All right. Well, thank you so much, Cecil, for letting me talk to this amazing group, the PAPA system. I'm Swiech WB9COY. Excuse me. So I got involved with a pretty darn elite group with Jim, KI6SIDS-UM, Phil Karn, KA9Q, Randy, myself, and then David. And so we've been flying balloons for quite a while with Mount Carmel High School, experimenting with students and stuff. And for the longest time, we would put these payloads up with the students, and the cost would be like $300+ every flight. And it's like, well, not all of the flights were recoverable. So it was like a woe is me when we lost one. Well, Phil Karn, through one of his neighbors, introduced this group to radio sondes. And these radio sondes were literally flying to us from the sky. The National Weather Service doesn't want these back. And so Randy and folks devised a system to track the weather balloons, the OEM version that goes up, and recover them from various parts of the county. Most popular spots are the desert, Randy?
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah?
Some randomly land out in the desert. Some land pretty close. I picked one up just last week that was like a mile from my house in Rancho Penasquitos Canyon. And many will go into Mexico or around the ocean, so those are gone. But yeah, I looked at a map of where they've been recovered, and it's a pretty random smattering of kind of the whole San Diego County and maybe the western half of the Snow Valley.
So the group is able to now supply itself with hardware and do experimentation. And I don't know if you can get a close-up on that, but this is a real sonde. And then I'll get the backside. This is what's coming to us every day.
Do you have the case, Randy?
Twice a day.
I don't have a case with me. So I'm gonna pass this around so people can touch it and feel it. It has a very capable ARM processor, which is under the battery case. STM F100.
You get 2 a day?
Randy, is it 2 a day?
So the Weather Service launches 2 a day from Miramar, right off of Pretty Little Road. And actually right in the middle of Scripps Institute's running some other research. They're launching about maybe 3 or 4 from the Scripps Pier. So there's 5 or 6 that the wind carries wherever per day. And so often, several per week are landed in a place that, I kind of look at where they land and look if it's get toable, like through driving or hiking or off-roading, or, the ones that would get toable, I'll make a note of them. And when there's a group in a particular area, I'll go out and try to get a bunch of them in one trip.
So this is a windfall for the group. So instead of paying $300 a flight and possibly lose them, we now have this hardware that we can have now launches that, well, it goes over the ocean, we don't care. I will take a sidebar on the ocean flights though. Randy came up with a buoy type sonde. During the summertime, the wind patterns push this stuff out into the ocean. And Randy actually had one floating in the ocean for how many, 20 minutes?
I had the idea, and 2 days later, Randy had ready to fly.
Yeah, Phil had this crazy idea, because there was this 5-week period last summer where they were all going west and landing in the water. We're like going through withdrawals from this group, so we used to catch them all the time. And Phil had this idea, well, could you make one that actually, the antenna, because they float on their side. And so it was one of these things where Phil has this idea, and I go, well, that won't work because, and then I go, but wait, if you did this, it would work situations. So we made one that was waterproof, and the antenna would, instead of the antenna sticking out the end of it, we suspended it horizontally. We had an antenna that was like a vertical above it and below it, and the one below it was tuned that when it floats in the water, it'll be like the counterpoise with the ocean as a ground plane, and sealed it all up with RGB. So we launched it flew for 2 hours, went out over the ocean first, fell in the ocean, and typically right when they hit the water, boom, no more signal. They're dead. So I crossed my fingers as the altitude's dropping, boom, hits the ocean, and it continued to transfer for another 17 hours until finally the batteries were depleted.
So we've been doing some experiments. Our flights with the students have now times 10. We'll just launch on a weekend or something. Hey, let's have a launch. because it takes less gas, takes more, just less logistics to get these things up in the air. So it's a windfall for us. And Bill, thanks for getting that into the group. Unbelievable. So, you know, hams, what do we do with this stuff now? Free hardware. So this is actually one of the things I came up with. I says, okay, we've been getting, you know, sensor data back from these things, and how can we make this a little more interesting for students and folks? So I decided to experiment with camera. Let's see if we can put a camera on one of these zones. And so we were successful. This is an actual picture from a Sonde that we launched. I don't know when we launched it. We're doing so many launches now. So that's real stuff.
The camera's what, about 20 bucks?
Yeah. Let's see.
Less than the gas, so we don't care.
Down. Okay. All right. A couple credits. I think I already mentioned it, but I'll put it in writing here. Phil, K9Q, Jim, Randy, and David. That's our core group right now, flying with Mount Carmel and doing all this experimentation. All right, a little bit about the system here. So we have the radio Sonde, which I'm kind of passing around right now. The radio Sonde transmits at very, very low power. We're just peewee power. Inside the Sonde, I just simplify the payload content for the camera. So all this stuff is custom software. We totally remove the OEM software and blow in our own ham radio software to do all this. So we totally reflash the Sonde. The protocol for the camera is that we have an image start packet that starts the whole sequence off. And that's covered by Reed Solomon, and that's code that Phil wrote. I found it on some site 10 times removed, but it was Phil's code. And so we cover the image start with Reed Solomon so we can really, you know, make sure we get that signal through, because it's very important to know where we get on the train, where we start. And then the image sequence. So the camera is a JPEG camera. And so what we do is we take the JPEG and just break it up into 64 bytes of information. And each one of those 64 byte packets, we give it a sequence number. So later on, we can put it all back together again. So we have image start, pictures are going on, frame 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, da 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 da, and then image stop. So we're done, and then we write it to the system just responds to that stop. So the speed, 9,600 bits per second. Now the ground stations, this stuff that Randy's been working on, these are up on mountaintops, cars, schools, but the main players are Toro and Otai for mountaintops. That's the PAPA system. Receiver sites that Randy has built custom antennas for, preamps. And did you get a picture of the preamp stuff later on? I didn't see it.
Oh.
That was probably worth putting up.
Oh, yeah. I guess I got a memory stick. I guess I added those slides later. I guess that was my copy.
Okay. So yeah, Randy put together the mountaintop stations. And so these stations are all simultaneously receiving the signal. And we send those image sequences to the cloud. And they get picked up. Right now this is GoDaddy. I have a GoDaddy server running based on Node.js. All these internet packets now come together in an aggregator, and we put all the pictures back together to form one picture. So if one receiver didn't get sequence number 12, but another receiver did get sequence number 12, we can start putting these pieces back together. So that's how we were able to have multiple stations working in tandem to get our pictures together. If you were just to have one station, our findings were we get a lot of just corrupted pictures. We can't get it all together. But the more stations, the more we can put together. And some of these pictures are absolutely amazing coming back from a free radio Sonde. So we'll see pictures later on. Well, any questions on the system? Okay. All right. Some of the guts of what's in that thing that I'm passing around. So at the heart of everything is the, oh, not the heart, but yeah, at the heart. STM F100 ARM CPU. And he's driving all these peripherals, an RF deck, SI4 4032, and it's using GFSK for its transmission mode. There's the actual power is 16.3 dBm. That's peanut power. This whole system runs on 2 AA batteries. 2 AA batteries power this whole thing. And I think our average flight time, Randy, how much we get? 12 hours on 2 AAs?
I'm not sure how long the camera will last because it always goes out of range. The position one will run about 18 hours. So.
We can get data back for hours just with 2 AA batteries. And so the way the RF deck talks back is through a SPI bus. And then around this is an ADD converter, we can get battery voltage. And this is all stuff that's displayed on the web. I'll show you pictures of that. Internal temperature data. And then GPS, a very capable U-Blocks GPS. That's a good little device. I mean, this thing locks on. We use it. We use the onboard stuff. So all the stuff we're talking about here, the U-Blocks, the SI4032 RF deck, the STM, that comes for free. And so does the internal voltage and the battery voltage. That comes for free too, comes with it. We just add the camera, add a peripheral camera, and that's through a UART. So in the back of that thing that you guys have been seeing, there's a little connector in the back. Part of that connector is a UART, and we use it for the camera. So this whole system, kind of looking at the chip, we use these pins. You can just kind of peruse if you want. You can see all the peripherals being exported here. And there's the little connector on the back of the Sonde. So we put all these things together, and we have a nice little high school grade project. So here's some particulars about the camera. So these are some, I buy these off of eBay. They're 21 bucks, so it's not going to break the bank. It has a special little connector, so I ordered a bunch of those from DigiKey, along with the cable. That's how it looks when the camera is wired up with the cable. So there's just, I mean, call it a stroke of luck, but I found a nice little cubby for it inside the actual container. And so I just carved this out with a little knife, and the camera just fits right in there so snugly. And so there's the connector, which will just connect to the back. It's just plug it in. And this is what it looks like with the 2 batteries in its lower form factor, and this is assembled. So there's the camera, a little connector, a little close-up of the connector and back. And so we're able to fly these things. Yes?
Is there some weather service stuff that you take out of this thing when you find it, or?
Yeah. So the OEM version has a little stick on it that has humidity and temperature. Is that right, Phil? Yeah. So we don't use that. So the little sensor that protrude this way from here, that's where it would plug in.
Okay, so you pull that off and you plug your camera in where that thing?
No, we don't use it. There's a connector in back. See the connector in back? That's different than the peripheral device that the weather service uses. This device, this peripheral here, for humidity and temperature. Now I've been exploring. Of course, hams do that, right? There may be a way to reuse that. But later on, I'm going to show you something that we have been able to recover, a weather service OEM device that comes with this, which is the pressure sensor.
You're taking the pressure sensors out right now, right?
We're using them over.
You are using them now?
Yes, sir, yeah. And it's flying right now. So ground stations, this is the ground station. We use this Uptronics board. It was originally came from a LoRa project that Jim and the group did. And so that chip right there, the LoRa chip actually does FSK. So I said, okay, we won't use LoRa, we'll use FSK because one of the native waveforms of the Sonde, the SI4032, is FSK. So now I got a match. I got the Sonde FSK and I got a ground station FSK. So we just put this on Raspberry Pis and we got a receiver. So that's my receiver that I use in my mobile when balloon launches up and I use it for roving. So that's what it kind of looks like for the receiver. And then there's some where to gets. This is where you can get the camera. This is where you can get that special connector. And this is where you can get the hat for the receivers that we're using. Some flight pictures. Sorry. These are just 3 assorted pictures these are actual, real live stuff that it came from. So it's fantastic. You get a free radio sound. This is probably like, I don't know, 70,000 feet maybe. You can see the curvature of the Earth. You can see where the atmosphere starts, all from a repurposed radio Sonde.
No Sidewinder missile though.
No.
Yeah, right. I don't want to talk about that in this presentation. This is kind of interesting. So what I did was I put this up here just because. So this is one of our flights. We just came out of the clouds. It was kind of a cloudy day. We just came out of the clouds, and that's an actual osprey that we caught going to Miramar up in the. And then here I geotagged the information on the packets coming back. So I knew where this picture was taken. So all the pictures are geotagged, future use, student participation, for whatever reason. You can convert these into Google Earth files and then look on Google Earth where it was taken from. So this kind of playing around with stuff. And so I stuck the geotags inside the pictures. It's amazing that you can actually put stuff in a JPEG and the JPEG doesn't care. I mean, I put this in the JPEG and only I know it's there. So it's really interesting what people can exploit JPEGs for, good and bad. All right, here's the ground station server. So that aggregator that we're all talking about and how it puts things back together. Here's a list of the ground stations listening. So if it's got a green, it means it's got internet connectivity to the server. And if it's got a number, it's the RSSI value that receiver is currently picking up the signal at. So these participants, we got Randy's QTH, we got Dave's Rover, we got Toro, Mount Comoro High School. Otai happened to be off the air at this time. Pardon me? There's a question? Okay. So there's our receivers. You can click on maps, APRS images. So I clicked on Google. And so that's where the balloon was at this particular moment. Call sign of the station, the school station. And here's that battery internal temperature. So those sensors come with the unit. There was no additional things I had to do just to use them over again, figure out how I can talk to them. So here's the GPS coordinates, that U-Blocks receiver. And also some raw GPS data down here. So this is what the students would see if they went to this URL, and we do our flight monitoring for the camera with this website. Any questions so far? Everybody good? So I put all the stuff on Git. So I'm going to send Ray the presentation. So if anybody's interested in looking at the source code, it's out there for the taking. Favorite picture? This is result of Phil's discovery. We got more student participation. So this was a day we decided to fly. We got a box full of these, and We just flew, but look at the footprint. I mean, this balloon, not a lot of gas in there. We can get these things going up and with very little gas. The payload's cheap, and there's a lot of ground station support for these things. So here we go. We're getting more flights using repurposed radio zones. I think this is just incredible, actually. Yeah.
So what role do the kids play in this? I mean, are they doing some of the programming, or are they just doing the tracking, or just watching the balloon go up?
So in this particular flight, that's a good question. The students said, we don't want any mentor participation on this flight. So to frame it, the students don't do the software, it's too advanced. They don't do the receiver sites because, you know, that's mountaintop work. What they do is the flight logistics on the ground. And so they work with filling the gas, hooking everything all up, making sure it's flight ready. And so there's what we really want to see is just us watching. So right now it's launch logistics. And so this group of kids just did it all by themselves. They have a checklist, and you know, that's where we're at right now. Eventually, you know, I'd love to get them into software, but this is where the level that they feel comfortable at.
These are high school kids?
Yeah. Yeah. Anything else you want to add, Phil?
Is there hydrogen or helium?
I was just going to say, for these flights that the kids are involved, we're using helium. Great tanks. For many of the flights we're doing here, so I know Randy uses hydrogen, which is really, you know, if you treat it with respect, it's reasonably safe. But with kids, we have extra.
Does anything last longer or go higher?
The difference is about 7%. Because helium is about twice as dense as hydrogen.
So this has been a journey. I mean, we've got now our system is being used for the Weather Service with Randy. We've got more student participation. We've got some ham radio experimentation with cameras on taking this stuff apart. I mean, we went to the level that you did. We found these things, we took them apart and see what else we could do with them. So this is where we're at right now. Let's see. Okay, so this was a future project, but I got it working. So on board comes with a pressure sensor. These things are pretty darn advanced. I mean, that's something, wow, we would like to really use that. So what I did was, looked at, there was a lot of hams, not just in the United States, but outside of the United States, doing a lot of experimentation work with this. And so there's schematics of this stuff that's been reversed engineering. So I took some of those schematics and start hooking up blue wires to the SPY bus. So I discovered that this is a SPY bus communication method. And so what I did was I hooked this up to, well, one of a very expensive SPY bus analyzer at work. And I sniffed this SPY bus and I got it down to what it wants for calibration data, what it wants for give me the data, and what it wants for I have the data for you. So we have activated this pressure sensor for this. So now we got internal temperature, battery, and then pressure. And if I'm successful in activating the other bus, we might get some external temperature data too. So let's just see, cross our fingers. But we were able to diddle around and figure it out. It's a camera that we were experimenting with. This one didn't work out so well, so we're staying with the Chinese camera at the moment. A couple weeks ago flight, best of, where's the full screen? Here we go. So that's one of the best of pictures. I just wanted to share this with the group. That's outer space that we're looking at. It's the end of our atmosphere. That's the Salton Sea. The curvature of the Earth is there. This is from a radio zone. I'm impressed at how well this works. And part of that is having the infrastructure that Randy just described. We have these powerful receivers up on mountaintops with state-of-the-art tech, with the construction of LNA filters and And because of that, we can aggregate all these pictures and come back with something that's, old term, snow-free. I'm just impressed with this picture. I wanted to share that with you. This is.
Going to Mexico, it looks like it probably did.
Yeah, I think eventually it did. But this was 80,000 feet over the Salton Sea. And so we used to hit that Salton Sea by accident. So this back history is that when we were flying the expensive payloads, the $300-400 payloads that woe is me, we hit that Salton Sea by accident so many darn times. But some of the coolest thing that Phil has captured on his archives, we had this thing coming down, it's payload coming down. We actually saw splashdown, and we saw waterfowl coming up to the payload and poking at it. It was amazing. And then we were so adamant that we're going to get that one particular payload back. Me and the student teacher, the actual physics teacher, we got a kayak and we went out there and we found it. We brought it home. So we got it back. But here's a picture of just, one of my favorites taken from 2 weeks ago from the radio Sonde.
That was part of my reason, by the way, for suggesting to Randy that I make this one that would survive a landing. Because then if we aim for the Salton Sea, we would miss it. We would miss it.
Yeah. So that's the end of what I wanted to communicate. Any questions for Randy or myself? Otherwise, we'll call it a wrap.